Transcendental meditation is a really, really big thing in your life. And the last time you and I talked, it was entirely about the subject of how transcendental meditation had really changed your life and affected your life. In as much as it is possible to explain such a complex subject in a really pitifully small amount of time, just describe for me what it is that transcendental meditation has done for your consciousness and what you believe it is capable of doing for the greater good. Because I know you're very sort of, you have a great mission for it.
How many people have heard of transcendental meditation? Quite a few, good deal.
It's your audience.
Transcendental meditation is a mental technique. It's an ancient form of meditation, a mental technique that allows any human being to dive within and transcend and experience the unbounded, infinite ocean of pure consciousness. Pure, vibrant consciousness, bliss, intelligence, creativity, love, power, energy, all there within, at the base of mind, the base of matter, is this field. And it's there. Modern science has just discovered the unified field by going deeper and deeper and deeper into matter. And there it was, a field of oneness, unity. But they can't go in there with their instruments and everything. But any human being can go and dive within through subtle levels of mind and intellect, transcend and experience this field. When you experience this deepest field, it's a beautiful experience. And experiencing it enlivens it, and you grow in consciousness. You grow in creativity. You grow in intelligence. And the side effect is negativity starts to recede. Things like hate and anger and depression, sorrow, anxieties, these things start to recede. And you live life in more freedom, more flow of ideas. It's a more appreciation of everything, more understanding of everything. It's so beautiful for working on projects. It's a field of knowingness. You enliven that and you get this kind of intuitive thing going. And it's so beautiful for the arts. It's so beautiful for any walk of life. It's called in Vedic science Atma, this field, the self. And there's a line, know thyself. And this is that thing. In the Bible, they say, first seek the kingdom of heaven, which lies within, and all else will be added unto you. You dive within, you experience this, you unfold it, and you're unfolding totality. The human has this potential. And they have names for this potential: enlightenment, liberation, salvation, fulfillment. Huge potential for the human being. And we don't need to suffer. You enliven this thing and you realize that bliss is our nature. We're like happy campers, flowing with ideas. Like I say, these little dogs, their tails are just wagging. It's not a goofball thing. It's a beautiful, full thing. Really, really, really great.
Now, I am right in thinking, aren't I, that your sort of relationship with that has mirrored your filmmaking career. I mean, you started TM around the same time that you were making Eraserhead. Is that right?
That's correct.
And it's something that you've done throughout your career.
Yes.
And I think the question that's always asked is, if the transcendental meditation creates, positiveness and all these things that you talk about, and I can see genuinely that it does, some people might ask, what about all the darkness that's in the films? What about all the...
Exactly. We are all different on the surface. And at the core, one, unity. We're one. We're one world family. On the surface, different. We like this, or we like this, we don't like this, we don't like this, and we catch ideas. Sometimes we catch an idea we fall in love with. And if it's a cinema idea, we see what cinema could do to that idea, and we're rolling. Stories hold conflict and contrast and highs and lows and life and death. and they have the human struggle going on in there, and all kinds of things the story holds. But the artist doesn't have to suffer to show suffering. You got to understand it. You don't have to die to do a death scene. You just have to understand it in your own way, but understanding is the thing. Understand the suffering, understand this anger, understand this character, understand this, and you go like that. And a lot of artists, and I felt that, and I felt like, oh, I'm starting meditation, I'm going to get real calm and peaceful, and it's going to be over. It's not that way. It's like so energetic. That's where all the energy is. That's where all the creativity is. And everything that is a thing has emerged out of this field, they say. So it's tremendous creativity. And you don't lose your edge. You get more, a strong feeling for something can be just like magnified. And you don't get sleepy and laid back and in this kind of, flat line piece. It's a dynamic piece that's there. It's very powerful. It's where all the power is. So it's the thing is, you can make all these stories, but you're separate from it, and that's the key.
One of the recurrent images in your films is of electricity arcing, is of light bulbs crackling on, and you have a recurrent motif of like 2 points and something arcing between them. And it seems to me that this somehow relates to what you think about the synaptic arcs in our brain. When you talk about TM, when you talk about these things, you talk about making connections. It seems to me that that's what that recurrent visual motif is about. And I know you hate saying what things mean in your films, but am I right in thinking that that's at least in the right area?
No. But it's a good, Mark is a beautiful guy, Mark is, and it's like that. I didn't think about it that way. I just love electricity. And I like smoke and fire and electricity, and these things are mesmerizing. You can watch a thing sparking and arcing for hours.
Yeah.
And it makes such a beautiful sound, and it's also a disturbance. There's something about electricity that does tie to what you say, but it's not necessarily the reason it's there.
In the case of Inland Empire, it seems to me that it's the first time since Eraserhead that you've made something without any outside interference at all. It's taken, Inland Empire took however long it took, years to put together. It was something that grew. It sort of seemed to have formed organically, and the end film is entirely your own, your own project with nobody else around. And that was sort of similar about Eraserhead. And you said, for example, you don't have to actually suffer when you're making art, but people did always talk about Eraserhead as being an extremely personal project in that way, and I feel that there is some of that in Inland Empire. Do you see those two things as connected? And please don't say no again.
I won't say yes.
Thank you.
There's only been Dune where I didn't have final cut.
Sure.
So all the films, I came to filmmaking through painting.
Yeah.
Nobody fiddles with a painter and his painting. It should be that way in film, and we should have total control. That way the thing has a chance of holding together as a whole. And so all the films were that way, although I understand what you're talking about. Eraserhead took many, many years. And
4 years, right?
No, it took about 6 years from start to finish, but I kept running out of money, so that's why it took so long. On Inland Empire, it started a scene by scene, and there was long times before the next scene came. Finally, it started unfolding more rapidly.
Yeah.
So when it goes like that, it's very frustrating, but it also gives you a chance to go slow and sink into a world and live in that world. The world of Eraserhead, I lived in that world for years.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful experience.
And in the case of Inland Empire, just on sort of nuts and bolts level, I've read various versions of where the story came from. One of them is that Laura Dern told you about a neighbour coming to see her and that she suggested the title. Another is that it came out of work that you were doing for the website. I mean, as far as you can tell, where did the genesis of the story come from?
Okay, there's just, it is true that Laura Dern came along and started this. She was walking down the sidewalk in front of my house and smiling as she approached me. I hadn't seen her for a long time. And she came and announced that she was my new neighbor. And this made us both very happy. And then she said, David, we got to do something again sometime. And it struck me, and I said, yes, we do. Maybe I'll write something. And that meeting there triggered a thing, a desire to, write something. And I say a desire is like a bait. It can bring things in. And lo and behold, it started bringing things in. And so that meeting started it. Where the title came from is another story. Later in the middle of shooting, early in the shooting, but say a third through, she's telling me her husband's from the Inland Empire, which is an area east of LA, known as the Inland Empire. It encompasses many cities, towns. And she went on talking, but my mind stuck on those words. I'd heard them before, but now they have a new meaning. And I stopped her and I said, that's the title of this film. Then, at the same time almost, my brother is up in Montana cleaning the basement of my parents' log cabin, discovers this old scrapbook fallen behind a chest of drawers, dusts it off, finds that it's my scrapbook from when I lived in Spokane, Washington, age 5. He sends it to me. I get this, I open it up. The first picture is an aerial view of Spokane, and underneath it says Inland Empire. So I had the most beautiful feeling of a correct title.
And is it correct that there are certain elements, like, for example, the Rabbit sitcom, I don't want to ask you about what that means, but that have their genesis in the davidlynch.com website?
Yes, it ran on the site, and it was called Rabbits. And sometimes we start something and we think it is that, and later it finds a new home. It was like going toward that, or later it sprouts and it becomes a bigger thing. You don't ever know. It's important to when you get an idea, to write it down so you won't forget it, and then when you're doing it, so many things can start flowing from that doing.
And there is also in the background of it Angela Badalamenti, who is the master of the suspended chord, the person whose music kind of embodies that sense that you get in your films of two worlds vibrating against each other, and it's the thing in between that's important. And he does that almost. I mean, he is the greatest suspended chord writer of his generation.
Yes, he is. And he can tear your heart out.
When Fire Walk With Me opened, it got very poor reviews in some places, and I remember seeing it, and actually I think it's still my favourite of your films. I really loved Fire Walk With Me, and it seemed that when the press turned on it, they didn't just dislike it, they were actively hostile towards it. And years later I spoke to Angelo Badalamenti about it, and I said it must have been heartbreaking when that happened. And he said, in relation to you, he said, for David, it was like somebody had taken away his kid, and it was like somebody murdering a child. How bad did it feel when Fire Walk With Me was that badly received? And do you now feel vindicated that people think, actually, it's a masterpiece?
No, I didn't feel bad.
No?
No.
He lied.
Angelo lied. When you do something and you have the final cut, you have control over it, and you've done the best you can do, and you've not walked away till all the elements feel correct, and you really feel that, then you can take that, that heavy negative reaction. It's on Dune where I knew I was selling out, and then still you get a bad review. That's dying 2 times. And so I just died a little bit on Fire Walk with Me. But it's true, over time, and the reaction was understandable because it wasn't in the same spirit as the series. That's what people got upset about. And the series was tapering anyway. So it was just set up. And there was a dark cloud over things for me in right around that time. So it was just destined to happen that way. But over time, since then, the reputation has come up.
And the key line in it is, we live inside a dream. And do we?
Very much we do.
And when you were making Fire Walk with Me, you said that one of the reasons you wanted to do it was that you just wanted to get back to Twin Peaks, that you had fallen in love with the place. And I think there is an entire generation of people who did fall in love, with the place of Twin Peaks, with the atmosphere of that series. I know that things, as you say, petered, but there was a moment when it was like that was the place that we all wanted to be.
It's strange. Twin Peaks exists in a part of the Northwest, fictitious part, but it's there, and it's a small town, and yet the story traveled around the world. And go figure what it was that caught all different cultures, all different places. It was a big, strange, beautiful surprise.
And was it as a result of Twin Peaks? Because you now have your own line of coffee, don't you?
Yeah, it's not as a result of Twin Peaks.
No, I know you like coffee.
I love coffee, but many human beings love coffee. And this David Lynch signature cup coffee, I think, will please those coffee lovers.
For those who don't know, it has the most fantastic advert, which is a picture of you, and it says, "It's all in the beans," and I'm full of beans.
I'm just full of beans.